Hey everybody, Griffinlobster. Long time no this. What can I say? Something that I've learned about myself over the past several years is that I am a man heavily driven by nostalgia. And so as I sit here on the 10-year anniversary of the release of my very first YouTube video, Let's Play Super Mario Bros. 3 Episode 1, I look back on it all and been like, man, it's been a trip. I have had lots of great experiences, had a lot of fun, played a lot of great games, and met a lot of excellent people, many of whom I still keep in regular contact with. And I'm so thankful for the time that I've had here, all 10 years of it. Now, admittedly, those 10 years could probably be more accurately characterized by my absence as opposed to my presence. It's been mostly hiatus, I will freely admit that. Sorry about that. But the time that I spent here, I assure you, I treasure. So thank you for that. My buddy, Dark-Minded Sith, who I'm totally stealing this idea from to do a 10-year Extravaganza video, because he did one. He's one of the people that I've kept in regular contact with. So thanks for that idea, because I feel like I need to come on here and do a decade video myself, right? And since we live in a society that counts on base 10, we are trained to pay attention and pay special attention to multiples of 10. And so, for my 10-year anniversary, I'm going to make a series of 10 videos where I discuss my 10 times 10 favorite video games of all time. For those of you who've been with the channel for a while, you might recall that I did a list of my 50 favorite games back in 2008. It's been almost 10 years since then. And it is not an exaggeration at all to say that that list is no longer representative of my tastes. I went back and watched those videos and was like, wow, I was way off base there. And who knows, maybe in 10 years, in 2028, I'll look back at this list when I make my top 200 games of all time, and I'll be like, wow, what was I thinking? But as much as I have... One of the things that I've learned making this list, I mean, this list was a challenge and frustrating at times, but also really fun and really educational. One of the things I learned is that opinions just change. And one of the things I learned about myself is that, yes, I am a man heavily driven by nostalgia, but I'm also heavily driven by new experiences. And I think the pursuit of those new experiences and comparing them to your past experiences is difficult and fun, but also rewarding. And I encourage you to think about what your favorite games are through this list. And I encourage you to disagree or agree with what I have to say about whatever games I plan to talk about here in a few seconds. Just because lists are fun, and I want this to be fun, and I want just to talk at you again. You know, it's been a while. It has been a while. So, let us get started with the list. No further ado, here we go, number 100. So how did I want to start this list? Well, I decided to take another page out of another friend's book, OwenSpack33, another one of those longtime YouTube friendos of mine with whom I keep in regular contact. He made a list of, I think it was like 25 or 50 of his favorite games a while back. And at his bottom spot, instead of just putting his least favorite game, he put a meaningful entry. He put Wii Fit, which was a game that helped him get into shape. So I decided to do the same thing. I have been on a bit of a weight loss journey myself here for the past roughly 2 years. It's been mostly diet and watching what I eat and eating less. But exercise is important too, and the lion's share of my exercise I have gotten through DDR. The dancing rhythm game, it's been around for ages. I'm sure you've seen it at least in an arcade somewhere or on, who knows. I mean, you're probably aware of it. And it's probably not a game many people would consider like a vital cornerstone of gaming history. But for me in my life, absolutely it is. So I just decided to pick my favorite home console version of DDR here. And I've decided at 100 to put Dance Dance Revolution Ultra Mix 2. Why Ultra Mix 2? I think it has just my favorite collection of songs out of the ones I've played, a good mix of kind of recognizable tunes and ridiculous, loud J-pop tunes, stuff that is completely ridiculous. It would be completely ridiculous to listen to on your spare time, but is danceable and just loud, bright, stupid fun. And it doesn't feel like exercising, and I think it just feels like I'm playing a rhythm game. But when you step off that dance pad and you are heaving and dripping sweat, you realize, of course, yes, indeed, you have gotten a workout. I think that's key. I owe a lot to Dance Dance Revolution, and so that's why I need to enshrine it here as the base plate of my list, sitting at number 100, Dance Dance Revolution Ultra Mix 2. Thank you so much for so much. And I just played it earlier today. I'm not kidding you, and I had a blast. So this exact one too. I didn't play Ultra Mix 1 or 3 or whatever. Yeah, I owe a lot to it, and that's all I can say. So thank you for that. All right, so coming in at number 99. One thing I decided to do with this list was to include what spot it was at in my 2008 list of 50, if it was on there at all. Obviously, there are several new games to this list, and several dropped off the list entirely, like from a top 50 to below 100, right? So here is the first drop of the list, and it is a precipitous drop indeed. Number 99, World of Warcraft. This was number 13 on my list of 50 in 2008, and it's just because I just don't play it anymore, honestly. I was coming off of playing it a lot back then. I had friends who played it with me all the time, and I was really, really into it. And really, my friends stopped playing, and when your friends stop playing, World of Warcraft kind of becomes this wasteland of right clicks and fetch quests and kill 15 wolves and kill 20 murlocs. I gotta say, it just sort of loses a lot of that shine. But if you can find friends to play together, I still think I would probably, I mean, I know I have friends who play World of Warcraft. If I just decided to summon the gumption and the funds to play World of Warcraft again, I'm sure I could have a blast, because I'm not sure that anyone polishes their games quite like Blizzard does in terms of just solid code, making their games feel sort of lighthearted and accessible, but then having that layer of hardcore under there, just under the surface, for people who really want to dig in and explore the game and explore the systems and get really good at it. And you see that in basically every Blizzard game that they make. But World of Warcraft, despite the fact that I just haven't played it in years, I look back fondly on the time that I had with that game, and for that, it deserves its spot here, sort of anchoring the list here at number 99. The next three games are all games that have undoubtedly been usurped oftentimes by future entries in their respective series. But they remind me of a time that was very important to me, my time with the Nintendo 64 when it was new. And really what the N64 brought, in addition to 3D graphics, at least for me, I never really got on board with the PlayStation until later, it brought multiplayer. It brought bringing friends over and clutching your controllers and hunkering around a CRT television, not sitting on the floor having a bag of snacks and just playing for hours and hours into the night. And having a great time, encouraging each other, making fun of each other, pissing each other off. It's just a blast. I look back on that time with incredible fondness, and I have three games in particular that I feel like I need to thank for that. So first of all, number 98 is GoldenEye 007, which was 34 on my list of 50. Definitely put it there out of respect. I think it fits better here near the bottom of the list if I'm going to include it on respect alone, because let's be honest, that game has aged terribly. Like, that game is aged like a peach in a desert. And yeah, it's tough to go back and play that game. It feels charitable almost to go back and play that game. What with the hundreds of twin-stick console first-person shooters now, or playing first-person shooters on PC like I prefer now with mouse and keyboard, it's tough. And the game looks like garbage, but you know, when I think of GoldenEye 007, I don't really think of that, really, of how the game looks now and plays now. I think about how it looked back then. How it looked when I picked Oddjob like a jerk and had to squint at 1/4 of a 24-inch tube TV. Just crazy fun, right? Just fun with friends, hours and hours of fun, switching out game modes, slappers only, golden gun, who knows? I mean, it's just always goofy fun. So, for sure. And the single-player campaign was great, too. But, I mean, let's be honest. The lion's share of my memories with that game are with friends. So, GoldenEye 007, for sure, earns its spot here. Number 97, Mario Kart 64, which I put at 20 on my list of 50. Man, I must have been high. Mario Kart 64 has definitely been outdone by future entries in the Mario Kart series, right? But for me, this was the beginning of the kart racer, the beginning of Mario Kart. When I think of Mario Kart, I immediately, it's the sounds that get me with that game. Just the sounds of that sort of slot machine sound of when you get a new item, or the alarm sound when you fire off a blue shell, the stupid little taunts the characters say to each other, Mario reading the menu options. I don't know what it is about that game, but it's that nostalgia once again. I got most of those tracks memorized in that game, and I could still go back, and have gone back recently and played it, and it's still fun. It is still fun, and it has a lot of charm still, and I think it actually holds up better than GoldenEye does, and for that reason it sort of ekes it out over number 98. But Mario Kart 64, for sure, great game. But I think the king of the N64 multiplayer games for me was the original Super Smash Bros. This was not on the list of 50 at all, and I think it's just because I didn't want to cram my list too much with nostalgia. I don't know why, but let me tell you, just a couple weekends ago, I went to a friend's house and we played a bunch of Nintendo 64 games. And featured was Super Smash Brothers, and obviously there's not as many levels in the game, not as many characters for sure, not as many little switches and toggles you can change. I mean, it's not, but you can still have a massive amount of fun with that game. It still works, honestly. And boy, I cannot tell you the number of hours I put into classic Smash. Me and my friends. I remember distinctly, I had a friend, we both enjoyed playing Link, but we were both annoyed that we were always playing with two Links. And so he and I had a Link off, and our other friends just had to sit there and watch us, just grit our teeth and try to outplay the other one as Link. And of course we played on Hyrule Castle, because obviously you're going to do that as Link. I mean, come on. And I lost, for the record. I don't know who I picked. I had to start picking after that. Probably Luigi. I think he's my go-to after that. But Super Smash Bros. Obviously has been usurped by future entries in its series, just like Mario Kart. But you gotta give respect where respect is due, and absolutely, Smash Bros., the original, is worthy of that respect. So there you go. There's that trio of timeless, well, maybe not quite timeless, but certainly heavily nostalgic N64 multiplayer games that I will never forget. So let's move on to something a little bit more modern. Coming in at number 95 is Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. It's a bit of a shame that the 2D platformer genre has been almost exclusively relegated to indie developers. I mean, there's a lot of great games, don't get me wrong, that are made by indie developers, but the AAA industry has just sort of turned its back on that genre. It's sort of passé, and that's just too bad, especially when you see how good those games can be when a lot of talent and a lot of money is thrown at it. I'm thinking about the recent Rayman games, and I'm definitely thinking about Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Every single level is just this explorative event. It maybe will introduce a new mechanic that it'll start slow and then maybe put a twist on it, ramp the difficulty up, maybe introduce a second mechanic, and then ramp the difficulty on that one, and then sort of display how these two new mechanics that the game just introduced play off of each other in really exciting ways. And that's just one level. And this game has several levels, and almost every level does that. Whether it's just something aesthetic or some gameplay aspect, or whether it's a minecart level where just crazy stuff is happening, it's at least a spectacle always, if nothing else. The game is gorgeous to look at, has an incredible soundtrack, great bosses, just bitingly difficult too at times, but not in a way that makes you feel like a piece of crap for either. Not too bad. I mean, it could be a little bit better maybe with maybe a little bit faster respawn, sure. But what can I? And it still hangs on to the dated life system, which is a rant for another video entirely. I don't have time for here. But for a while, honestly, it was just about. It was among like the 5 or so Wii U exclusives that made a Wii U even worth purchasing. Now, of course, you can play it on Switch, so get it on Switch. I mean, if you have not played this game, and if you even are even slightly fond of the Donkey Kong Country games from yesteryear, please check this game out. It is a delight from start to finish, and I mean that with the utmost sincerity. I love this game. So there you go, Tropical Freeze. Coming at number 94 is Legend of Zelda: Oracle of Seasons. On my list of 50, I put Link's Awakening at number 50. And I think I just sort of realized that I just like this game better. I have more memories with it. Within the past couple of years, I went back and played both and had more fun with this. And I think it's because it uses the Other Worlds the Other Worlds convention that the Zelda series has basically taken and run with in almost every game since A Link to the Past. It uses that very effectively. I mean, you have the Subrosia underworld lava place, but then the overworld has 4 different modes, each based around the 4 different seasons. And the way that you can explore the world and the way you need to use changing seasons oftentimes quickly becomes a puzzle in and of its own. The entire world becomes this one big puzzle where you have this big lever that you're moving constantly between the 4 different seasons. And that's very exciting, and it uses it in a lot of great ways. On top of that, you have excellent dungeon design and a game that takes the relatively limited capabilities of the Game Boy and the tools that Capcom had at their disposal and really just runs with it and makes it a complete package that still feels like a main entry Zelda series all these years later. Like I said, I just went back and played it on the DS shop not too long ago, and it holds up for real. I'm putting Seasons here instead of Ages because I think Seasons is a little bit better than Ages. Ages has sort of 2 options. You have the past world and the present world that you can switch between. And while the changes between the 2 are maybe more robust, they feel more like 2 separate entities. I more like the switching between 4 is maybe a little bit more exciting than just switching between 2. And different, I think, when you look at the Zelda series as a whole. This will definitely not be the last Zelda game on this series. That is for darn sure. You have more work to do, my friend. So there you go, 94. 93 is System Shock 2. I went back and played this a few years ago because of my undying love for the BioShock series. A bit of a spoiler for the list. There's going to be a few BioShock games on here. And I think the game is dated. You don't need to look at it very long to understand that. Maybe even from a gameplay standpoint, it's just a little bit dated. Like if you don't slot your character the right way, I mean, there's some RPG elements, and if you don't kind of choose a path, you're going to be a little screwed. You can't really be a jack of all trades and really feel like you're dominating the game world very well. But I'll tell you what, 2 aspects of this game that are completely timeless. And that is, first of all, its story and the way it's told with the audio diaries and the radio conversations. It pulls you in and makes you curious about what put the world in the state that it's currently in, this space station that's just gone completely to hell. And Shodan, the villain that shows up about halfway through the game maybe, is just oppressive and just adds to the game feel that the story's already created. And I feel like I'm getting into my second point here. The other way that it's timeless is its atmosphere. It's impeccably dark and moody, and you're always afraid about what's going to be around the corner, and it manages to do that. For me now, despite the fact that it is clearly an old game that the years have not been particularly kind to, but I think that if you forgive that you will fall in love with this game relatively easily. The game world is, like I said, just heavily atmospheric, just draws you in, and you'll be ticking away the hours on this game like you wouldn't believe. And it also definitely has that BioShock feel of a world gone to hell, and then you're kind of like stuck in the middle of it, and you're trying to piece together the aftermath, and there's still this sort of overarching entity that is watching you and has malevolent intentions in mind, and it's just great. It's just a great game. System Shock 2. I could play it now, honestly. And you can run System Shock 2 on a friggin' toaster practically. So I'm sure if you have a PC that's come out in the last 5 years, regardless of specs, you'll be able to play that sucker. So I would recommend System Shock 2 for sure. All right, coming in at 92 is Kingdom Hearts 2. Hey, Kingdom Hearts 2. This was number 40 on my list of 50 in 2008, and I think it's dropped a lot just because that I just haven't played the series in a long time. Back in high school, when Kingdom Hearts 2 had like come out recently, you know, I was in love with the series back when it was only like 3 games big. Now there's 80 of them, and the story is complete gobbledygook that you would require a master's degree in literature to be able to piece out. I'm sure there are people who have spent the time on it, and it's probably not that, doesn't really demand that much thought probably, but it's just more time than I want to put into it, I think. And I'm a little cynical about the convoluted nature of the narrative, so I choose to not care, I guess. And that's a little bit of a shame, but when I think of Kingdom Hearts 2, I don't necessarily think about the story too much. I think about this back then still novel idea of the marriage of that the Final Fantasy world and the Disney world, exploring Disney movies that I loved as a kid, exploring them as game levels, still fun. The idea of it is still fun to me, despite the fact that I have not played any of these games in a long time. And the combat, just great fun. There's a lot of surprising challenge that they bake into that game, lots of systems that sort of interweave, and it's still a great package, right? And I'm still just barely excited for Kingdom Hearts 3. I know it's like finally coming out now, supposedly. I don't know, there's been a lot of, I know it's coming out, but it's just been, I get a little cynical about it, right? How long it's been, but I try not to be, because I look back on my time I spent with Kingdom Hearts 2, and I definitely had an excellent time. So if you feel brave, you feel like spending a lot of time in several games to try and get the comprehensive Kingdom Hearts experience, by all means, check it out. My favorite, though, is still Kingdom Hearts 2. And finally, here at number 91, we're doing 10, like I said, doing 10 games every video, doing 10 videos. Here at number 91, we started the list talking about Odin Spack. We're going to end it with Odin Spack. This is his favorite game, Kirby Superstar. This was number 24 on my list of 50. And I think it was because, I'm not really sure, honestly. But I think it's been a while, right, since I've played Kirby Superstar, and it's, I love all the different little bits and pieces of the games. I like the small experience of like Spring Breeze, and then you have sort of how it sort of unfolds and gets a little bit bigger with each iteration. You know, Dynablade's a little bit bigger, you know, Meta Knight, and then you have the ridiculous, the cave one. Oh, why can't I think of the name? Darn, I knew this was going to happen. Something Cave Offensive. Whatever, the one with all the treasures. That's a huge, like, sprawling game, and so you can sort of choose what size of game you want with this suite of several games in it. And I like the little mini games too, like Gourmet Race and whatnot. It's just a fun package that doesn't take itself too seriously. It's probably still the pinnacle of the Kirby series. I'm not like the biggest Kirby fan. I find the games sort of floaty and unchallenging now. Like they sort of specifically make them easy for whatever reason. But Kirby Superstar is not easy. There are times in that game where you really have to have your wits about you. Obviously, like all of the powers, all the little subtle gameplay things, a lot of the powers that you get in that game are surprisingly deep. And there's like hidden ways to do extra damage to bosses and stuff. It's just a cool game. It's a cool game that has sort of surprise depth. That if you really dig in, you'll find more and more to enjoy about it and love about it. And I think if I did that more, this would probably end up higher on the list. But instead, here it sits at 91. But still, an incredible game, no doubt about that. And so there we go. That's the first grouping of 10. I hope you enjoyed watching, and I hope you stick around for the next 90. It's gonna be something. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and until, well, I might just do one every day for 10 days, so we'll see how it goes. But until next time, thanks for watching, and more games next time.